welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hi, I'm Ramon, and I'm on the case.
Oh, is this Detective Ramon that we are dealing with today?
Yes, this is Investigator Ramon, because it's the topic of the podcast, I guess, because I have feelings about that class, and I'm just gonna put it up at the front. But before all that, remember to like this video. I mean, if you like it. If you don't like it,
just press like anyway.
Yeah, just press the like. We'll know which ones.
We'll let us sort it out. Don't worry about that thumbs down. Just press the thumbs up, and then we'll know. Don't worry about it.
Right. Even in fact, just don't even bother with the like. Just leave a comment. Tell us how bad of a job we did, or how good of a job we did, or if you don't care, just say hi.
Or like share it with your friends so they know not to come here.
Yeah.
You can also message us on Twitter and Facebook, just to let us know how much you like or dislike or feel neutral about the podcast.
Right. If you just want me to talk about like your dog or your cat or whatever fluffy animal you have, we'll hear and listen to all of it. We'll take all of the pictures if you want.
Yeah. I mean, we read all our comments, all our mentions and whatever. So yeah, sure, we'll do that too. And of course, because this is a podcast where we talk about tabletop RPGs and games and just talk about how we feel when we're running them and any sort of insights we might have. So if you have any specific questions, you can drop them there.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, Calvin and I are both DMs and players, and we've been playing tabletop RPGs for a long time, so we have a wide breadth of knowledge, and this is a very low-key place to do stuff. So, I mean, if you have a question, we probably, have dealt with it, or we're going to eventually, so we can put a little input there.
Or we know enough to flim-flam through an explanation. Exactly. I don't know. I feel weird saying I have knowledge, but I guess that's true on a technical level.
On a technical
It's more experience than knowledge.
I do know some things, just not all the things.
Exactly. I know enough to know I don't know everything.
Yeah. That's like that's the important part. All right. Well, yeah.
I mean, you seem real fired up, so I guess I should stop delaying you. We should go right into our... I guess our discussion for now is just about a particular class for Pathfinder 2, so it's a really niche discussion topic.
I guess so. We don't have to talk about this the entire podcast, but it's just something that like I could not shake from myself.
Yeah.
Since so a little background. Our buddy Corey, he ran a game last night for us, as of recording this, I guess, this weekend, and it was great. It was fun. We played a couple different. Huh? Yeah, it was a very big twist, almost world-ending twist.
Literally.
Yeah, it's almost like he like really channeled Shyamalan on the twist there.
Yeah. We did see dead people.
Yeah. But so we all played like classes we've never played before. We had a ranger, myself, Calvin played a bard, and our friend Joel played a investigator, which is the thing that I want to talk about, and my disdain for the investigator. As a class. Yes, I think that I've decided to never let somebody else run an investigator in any of my games, unless the point is it's like a one-on-one thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I want to convince you otherwise, because you were talking about doing like another Pathfinder one-shot on the channel, and I was like, I want to be like a vampire Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that'll be great. I think an investigator would be really good for like a solo game, but having something that is like a group setting, like I don't think it fits, man.
I mean, yeah, let's just get right into it. I guess we should explain first what the class is and what makes it unique in a way.
Yeah. It's like if you took Batman and then took out all the fighting part and you're just the best detective.
The world's greatest detective part.
Right. But so you are Sherlock Holmes, but also you have a lot of... It was so weird. It was like... Yeah, it's you're essentially playing a detective, and you're essentially Sherlock Holmes, and you go around and you have these things where you have a case, and you basically pick a character or an item. So it's like something's missing, and then you have a case to be like case of the missing royal jewels, and then you have a bunch of abilities that kind of let you,
like they're related to your case.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's the abilities directed being in like knowledge rolls, like recall knowledge rolls. They have a bunch of stuff to boost that. They have a bunch of stuff to kind of weed out fallacies and being able to pick up clues and stuff like that. And
there was what I kind of liked from my angle at least was that you could use your intelligence for attacking and for damage as well, if I remember correctly.
Actually, it wasn't damage; it's only for attacks.
Oh, just for attacks. Okay.
But you also get a sneak attack. Like you also get precision damage.
Yeah.
On top of that, so I mean, it's good. I think it was a cool class. I don't think that, in all honesty, I think it should have been an archetype and not like a full blown class. Like, I can see that. Yeah, and it's because it's doing the things that everybody else does when they're normally just playing, except now it has
mechanics to it.
Yeah, like and meta breaking rules.
Yeah.
Right. So I forget. I just watched a video of somebody kind of going through the entire class and kind of like basically just skimming it.
Oh, you did some research. Okay.
Yeah, I did do some research because I wanted to make sure that like I'm not the only one. I mean, I didn't look out for a video of just somebody being like, "Yeah, investigator." Like, how dumb are investigators? Right? Like, but I was surprised that this guy's opinion was so. He had the same problem with it that I did. Was that some of the abilities kind of put the DM in such a weird position, right?
Yeah.
It's like it made the DM have to come up with a whole bunch of like just stuff and confined like the storytelling into having to deal with this one character, right? It's different from like a fighter who's really good at hitting something, right? That the tools for you to deal with that, it's very clear, and you don't actually have to put that much effort into it. You know what I mean? While versus like having to be always engaged with the surroundings and making it so it's like there's an ability called that's odd or something like that, like the oddity thing. I forget for and essentially you walk into a room and the DM is supposed to point at something that's odd to you. It can't be the thing that's obvious. It has to be something obscure that only you notice because you're like Sherlock Holmes in it, right? Because you're the best detective in the entire world, you know?
Yeah, so the DM would have to make something odd in pretty much like that's automatically going off, or you have to select to do that?
No, it's like it's automatically.
Okay.
So every time you go into a new room, it's like you gotta figure it out. And there's like as like the character progresses, it becomes so much more like there's parts where the character gets to just ask the DM what's true or not, or if they're going down the right path, or like if something's like doesn't lead anywhere. Like I think the example he said was like, okay, so in the room there's some gray mud on the wall, right? And because like say he described that to a normal party without an investigator, the party would be like, oh, that must be important. But then the DM, right, would then he could be like, yeah, I don't know, I can take some inspiration for that. So maybe the bad guy does have something to do with the gray mud, and then the party was right? But then it's like, because the investigator's there, his ability allows him to weed out red herrings. So the DM is gonna be like, no, you're right, it's a red herring, there's nothing to do with anything, right? But then you miss that whole thing, and it's like the investigator puts you in a position where it's like, well, now there's no deviation, right? You can't, the abilities allow you to get to the end goal. You don't get the chance to meander, you don't get the chance to be wrong, you don't get the chance to just make a couple mistakes, because the built into the class is built in so the person just knows. That's just it.
So rather than like having to analyze that with like your knowledge of nature or just the general surroundings or whatever, and it might lead you on like a red herring chase, like you just automatically know, oh, this has something to do with the specific task at hand.
Yeah.
So the DM is in a position where they have to put elements in to like facilitate that you're able to investigate something
Right.
the moment you're there, and you're able to know what's true and what isn't. So, yeah, you're kind of I guess the DM is kind of in a position where each thing has to be a bit of a mystery, at least to give the investigator a chance to do like what they can with their class.
Exactly. And if and it's just like more work. It's like, also, if you have a trap, can you imagine having like a trap in like a dungeon, and the investigator walks into that corridor, and then he's gonna be like, is there anything odd about the corridor? And then, but you have to tell them.
Yeah. Doesn't a rogue do that though? Detect traps?
I think I don't know how trap finding works, but actually I could probably just pull it up and see how it works, but whatever.
Okay. Or is it like a check that they have to do?
Yeah, so you basically, if you're trying to like think about traps, you make like a perception check, I think, beforehand, and then you keep that number, and then if a trap is there, the DM would just be like, oh man, by the way, you noticed something. And yeah, and then it just either you notices it or not. But also, they get finding traps give you bonuses to, or trap finding gives you bonuses to the actual trap. So usually traps have like a save, right?
Yeah.
So just inherently being a rogue, even if you didn't see it, you're just better at reacting to whatever's happening.
Yeah,
and then it takes...
I'm looking at Trap Finder as the first level feat here.
Yeah.
In that, yeah, you get a perception bonus for finding traps.
Yeah.
And then you get a bonus for AC against attacks made by traps.
Right. I mean, like, and that's like I don't know how you would do it, but I would think that it would be a DM roll.
I think you automatically get a check if I'm reading this right. Even if you aren't searching, you get a check to find traps.
Yeah, and that the DM would just roll and just tell you, right? It would just be like, you're walking down the corridor, and then the DM rolls for your character and be like, hey man, by the way, you noticed something weird, right? But the investigator just automatically happens. So it's not even like, right? And I guess that's the point. It's like you're kind of trying to be that A team, like the special forces. Everybody has their own special part to do.
Yeah.
But I find that like everybody wants to find the trap. It's the same problem they had when they introduced the thief in like D&D 2, right? Like second edition. When like the thief came out, it's like, but are we all thieves? Because we all thieve and loot bodies. Like that's like the thing. Like Conan was a thief, but he was more like a fighter barbarian thing. But he still snuck around and lied to people and like stole their crap whenever it was good, because but now you had a class that was like exemplifying that. It's like, well, now I could just do it better. Then it's like, well, what's the point? And then also on top of that, it's like, so running an investigator, now it's like they have a case and now they're following leads and they're all doing that. But in an action adventure role-playing game, right, or like a fantasy role-playing game or whatever, you're already doing that, because inherently there must be fantastical forces that are pulling you through the story. There must be mysteries that you trying to uncover, right? There's obviously plots that the villains are plotting, right? You're already doing that, but now because there's like a player who's playing has mechanics, you're able to kind of like, you take that away from the rest of the party, because now instead of it being like, well, the bard's gonna go chat up that person and see if they can get some clues, and it's like, no, I'm the investigator, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna interrogate that person, right? But then it's like,
and try to notice something odd about what they say.
Yeah, but either way, you're doing that anyway, just by role playing or just by being something else, like, you know what I mean, just by having the skill. But because he's an investigator, now it's like he has to do it, right? And the whole point is like, why would any of us try to do it? Because he has the best chances at doing it, because that's his whole thing, right? And unfortunately, that takes up a lot of DM time, right? Like the DM only has so much time in the session to allot to every player, right? And the investigator inherently, because the way the class is, they're going to be in the forefront of the flim-flam, and no one else is probably going to get the flim-flam time. And I think there should always be flim-flam time in every session, because that's like half the fun of the game, right? Yeah, but if the investigator's there, and the investigator's going to get his hands in the middle of everything because he's following his case, right?
Yeah, I mean, like there were things like when I was imagining the class, like I did, because I have the Path Builder app, so everyone who has that app likes to make random characters just when you're bored or whatever. So I was thinking about that kind of thing, and I was kind of picturing more of like, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I was thinking of like, the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. in them.
Yeah, definitely.
The way he does that like slow-mo analysis thing, like that's kind of where my head was at.
Right.
As far as what the character could do, I wasn't really thinking too much about like all the rest of it.
Yeah,
But I can see what you're saying about how they would take over in those moments. Like if you're trying to figure something out, it's not going to be like a collaborative effort. It's not even going to be like, even if you have like a wizard or whatever in your party who has the high intelligence, so they know more things. It's like, this is the person who is going to be like not only intelligent but also talking to people as well, if I'm understanding this correctly. But like in a game that's more combat focused, they wouldn't be able to use those abilities as much.
But that's not true, because they have combat abilities too. Like, their recall knowledge stuff allows you to get information on the enemies and weaknesses, but that also leads into like and like also it's also like in the middle of combat you can also do all those role-playing things, right? Like that happened on our at the game, like during a combat scenario where very likely one of us could have died. The investigator was like, wait, I think something's up, let me go talk to this person. And and it's just kind of like, how do you get away from that? Because okay, so it's like,
yeah, to be fair, like that's the abilities the investigator has. That's like
exactly
that's
right?
like a barbarian's gonna rage in combat, cleric is gonna heal or do like damage on undead or whatever. Yeah. So someone with those abilities is gonna want to use them because that's what their class does.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's like if I find it very hard. Maybe I'm more aware of it. Sorry, because I'm a DM. I'm very, very aware of how long someone's turn takes. Because as a DM, that's what I'm trying really hard to find the sweet spot where I'm able to get someone's turn done fast enough so the other players aren't waiting so long for their turn, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to move through the math or whatever, the whole entire conversation, so everybody gets more DM time, right? So I'm very much aware when a player is taking up like the majority of the DM time on the table, right? And the investigator inherently just does that based on the way their class works, because there's always has to be a conversation to the DM, right? And they're always trying to talk something out with the DM, maybe not even on somebody else's turn too sometimes, right? With their reactions and stuff. It's always there's always like, I think I explained it today over dinner to like my wife and our friend Corey who ran the game. It was just like, think about it. If everyone takes 10 minutes on their turn, right? That means you get 10 minutes of DM time and 20 minutes of nothing, because there's 3 of us, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just kind of hanging out. And if someone takes more time on their turn, then that even lessens the amount of time that you get to go, because we only have so much time to play.
Okay,
yeah. And that was I think is the issue. And I think Investigator also has like the draw for people or players who like to be in the middle of stuff. You know what I mean? Like those characters, those players who just like needs to be like the I don't know. I want to call them like I want to call them like derogatory, because it's like, it's not like I'm trying to be derogatory,
but someone who's more inclined to want to be in the spotlight.
Yes, I was gonna say divas, because I mean divas are awesome.
That works too.
Divas are amazing because divas like obviously earn the right to be called a diva, but it's like
I like, as an aside, I've always wondered if I'm kind of like that. So I do have moments where I'm just like, okay, I'll just shut up for a bit, let everybody else do something, and then I'll insert myself
when it's ready, right? Yeah, when it's time for you to take the spotlight over again. Yeah,
like if I feel like I've been doing a whole lot, and I'm in a position where I can like let other people do something, then I'll be quiet for a bit and just like mull over my notes and abilities or whatever, pay attention to what's going on. Because sometimes I wonder, I was like, am I being too diva-ish by being so in character all the time? Let me sit back and let other people be their characters for a bit.
Exactly. I think that it's honestly it's because probably we've DM'd and we have to let people, we have to like, it's like, well, it's our time now, I have to let the players have some fun, and then it's like, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff, so like it's like like you're aware of it, right? It's like something that you're just kind of like inherently aware of. Like I don't think that a lot of players, if they haven't DM'd before, not saying that not everyone's gonna get it, but it's like, I think it's just the fact that we were able to kind of be like, wait a minute, I know the the thing that I'm doing right now. I need to chill out and let somebody else have some spotlight.
Yeah. I mean, and even when you're DMing, you can even see the opposite of the spectrum. Like, if someone hasn't talked for a while, then you might feel a need to... Cause it might be easier to see, like, when you're running the game, it might be easier to recognize who you haven't spoken to as a character for a while.
Yeah. And just go engage with them, right? And it's like, and that's not even like every character needs to get the same amount of spotlight in every session. Like, I think some sessions are heavily dominated by one character because we're exploring whatever they're about, right? But also trying to tie, I'm always like thinking about DM is like, okay, I'm always like, even though we're focusing on you right now, how do I tie in everybody else? Even if like you're going to be the main character for this couple of hours that we're playing this game, how do I make you guys, everybody else, the supporting characters, right? So maybe like this person's trying to do something. How do I grab somebody else with me and then just like, we'll do it together instead of me trying to figure it out all on my own.
Yeah, because like even if it's a quiet person, you want them to still be like engaged in the game.
Exactly.
Like it's fine if they don't want to talk, as long as they're in the space.
Yeah, and just and it's that's it.
Yeah,
and I think the investigator class like exacerbates that problem of trying
like
to
it shifts the balance so much.
Yeah, trying to take up so much DM time.
So yeah, that's why you're
DM
saying
time. Yeah,
that's why you're saying like it would work better on a solo game where you are as the DM already doing that.
Right, and the focus is a mystery, right? So every time you get as you're progressing through the story, all of your mechanical stuff is automatically applying because you're already trying to look for the next clue because it all just lines up. I think. This is my opinion. I think the investigator should have just been in the DM's guide as like a way to like how to run a mystery theme, right? It's like, give everybody the opportunity to notice something odd when they walk into a room, right? Give the DM the option to be like, okay, pick a random player. That player notices something odd that everybody else doesn't know, because then it becomes a conversation between everybody, right? Could even give you ideas of just like you just write down a piece of paper and you hand it to a PC. The PC is like, this is what you see, right? And it's like, well, and then everybody gets to talk, right?
So like create a subsystem of just like investigation and let people do those sort of checks. Let everyone do that. Or you did also mention earlier like an archetype,
Right.
Which for people who don't know, I guess archetype is something that you can like. It's like alternate feats and stuff, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of, yeah. So it's like you, instead of choosing, you get like a little bit of something instead of being a full-blown class. And it's like you could have had the investigator, whatever the investigator's little bits that are important to like the class, like the class features, put it into an archetype and add it to, so you can be like a rogue investigator, right? That's like a clear cut, or a bard investigator, or a fighter investigator. Like, it doesn't matter as long as you're able to meet the requirements, right?
That would be interesting, yeah, because like I'm imagining a rogue investigator would be better at like those like figuring out clues or trap detection kind of thing, and a bard investigator might be the interrogator type.
Exactly. Or a fighter investigator might be the manhunter who's going to be able to take down the foe,
that's
right?
cool.
Right. And then you could actually be Batman. Right. And like 100%, like we can figure it all to the T what Batman does, and then you have all the stuff that's going to be able to do it, right?
Did the Vigilante class from Pathfinder 1 have any of this? Because I never got a chance to... Well, I mean, I don't want to say I never got a chance, because I could have taken any chance when I made a new character.
Right.
But I never played it myself. But it was always something that I was, like, looking at and thinking about. Was it like this in a way? Because I remember you specifically had a secret identity in that class.
Yeah, I have no clue. I think you probably did have an ability to kind of look, like, search for clues. I don't know if there was an investigator class in Pathfinder 1. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments.
There was Inquisitor, but I mean probably, but not that I remember certainly. I just
maybe
remember Vigilante.
I feel like the investigator is probably like came from that, right? Like an inquisitor and like a vigilante. Like I could see them taking bits and pieces and put it together, because I know the vigilante had like a secret identity, like you said, and it's like, they had the ability to basically not be recognized during the day, but the nighttime, I am the night, right? Like.
Yeah, I think it might have been kind of a rogue thing, because I'm looking it up now. And I'm seeing you get vigilante talents like every other level, so it's like, okay, this probably seems like a rogue or a fighter kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I just think that it puts a lot of burden on, like, the investigator class puts a lot of burden on the DM. It puts a lot of burden on the party, and it also puts a lot of meta elements that take away from the actual role playing. Because instead of it being like, well, what do you investigate in the room? What do you look around? Tell you all the stuff in the room, and you say, I'm going to go look at this drawer or whatever, and then I'll tell you something odd about the drawer inherently. Mm-hmm. But now, because he's Sherlock Holmes, he gets to walk into a room and have, his
mind palace scene.
Yeah, I know, plot powers where he's able to just figure it out because, Sherlock Holmes is a book / movie / series, right? So we're just trying to get to the end and fill out some time.
Yeah.
But in a sense, like, you take away from the role-playing aspect because it's like, now instead of just talking it out, I have rules to back me up. There's, and I think that takes away from the actual role-playing, and it makes me a little frustrated.
Okay, so rather than the looseness of role-playing where you get to do things based on what your character would... I mean, it's still what your character would do, but it puts mechanics onto the, I guess, looseness and freedom of role-playing.
Exactly. And it kind of takes the fun out of being wrong. Like, there's there's like this crazy fear I think players sometimes have about making a mistake. But I think that, like, a lot of the greatest stuff in the world, like stories you've heard, are all, like, some of them are tragedies. Sometimes you just gotta take your licks and bad stuff is gonna happen to you because you made mistakes. But you gotta trust in the DM. The DM's not gonna... he's going to take you on a fun adventure. Sometimes you might sway straight from the path, but you'll get back right on it, man. He's never not going to give you a chance to redeem yourself or redeem the story or save the princess. It depends on
the kind of game you want to play, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for both of us, like, if we have created a, like, well, not the narrative, but like I want to say story. I don't know if that sounds too railroady, but if you have created something for the PCs to go through with some sort of end goal in mind, then it would kind of suck if it didn't happen.
Yeah, and I never believe. I think that it's actually impossible for the PCs to truly ruin your game or a campaign, even in circumstances where, like, you defeat there, I think we talked about it maybe 2 podcasts ago or
so
whatever.
Hard to tell.
When
you measure time in podcasts.
I know, right? It's that moment where in our pirate game where my wife's character had the chance to literally, like, the bad guy was like, basically taken out, right, subdued, but then there was, like, this dragon, and the dragon was coming to basically burn her alive, right? And it's like, well, you had like a 1 in 20 chance to grab, like, the dragon orb that was controlling the dragon and stop the dragon from destroying the city and saving yourself, and you beat the bad guy, right? You could beat the bad guy right here, right now, right? Yeah. If you're willing to do it. And I was down to let it happen, right? Because,
which I'm still fascinated by the alternate universe where that happened.
Exactly, right? Could you imagine like, what would actually happen?
We have a dragon now.
Yeah, right.
An ancient dragon, like, at that.
Yeah, man. And it's like why? Like, I that was like a rule. I could have just said, no, you don't have enough time. But it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, the story is still good, and like, PCs can never actually ruin your campaign, even if they decide to slaughter a city or something, and somebody goes to stop, and all of a sudden the campaign goes to a different direction. You just go with it, right? It's like almost impossible, I think, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because we're all just hanging out playing games anyway.
Exactly, like, it's an improv game.
Yeah.
So yeah, any last thoughts on the Investigator class?
I don't know. We'll ban it until further notice.
I don't know, man. I want to do that one shot. I
do, and I think that in a one-on-one session, I think the Investigator is pretty brilliant because it's like it's not even like, it just gives you the terminology to really kind of do a proper mystery, but again, because it takes so much energy and time away from everybody else, I think a solo game where you could really focus into like a story and, like, I can imagine an investigator actually, like, you're actually taking notes because, you know, you're interviewing witnesses, you're picking up clues, you're writing down in your clue journal, and then you're trying to literally put it together, right?
So yeah, oh no, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, I was just trying to say, like, so it requires like that specific kind of game to be utilized the best, because the player is going to want to use their investigator abilities, like any player of any class is going to want to use their abilities.
Yeah,
but it kind of it has that requirement up front of it has to be the kind of game where you're able to do that.
Exactly. I think it's just like a special case scenario. Like, you wouldn't be able to play a vigilante if you're off exploring the wilds and never have to deal with a functioning society.
Yeah, because you have a secret identity and you have social talents or whatever those might be. Man, I wish I played a vigilante.
Yeah, I think you might have enjoyed it. But, you know, like, it doesn't make any sense. Or like in the context of Ineon, right? There's why would you need a secret identity if the only people who are here are everybody that, you know what I mean? It's a town that likes you. You know what I mean? There's no big overarching, like, you are the government.
Yeah.
Like, who are you fighting against?
Yeah.
Right. It's like I think it's very, very genre specific, if I can say it like that. Like, it's not. I think Investigator is great, but I don't think it fits into like any run of the mill or any kind of. It doesn't fit in as easily as the rest of the classes in like a fantasy setting, I think. Generally.
Because all the classes are still like adaptable to things, and if you have a full party, you can still have those social encounters and those combat encounters, and then everyone will be able to do their own kind of thing.
Exactly, right? Like a rogue. Okay, so like if you have a story like roadmap, and it's like, well, okay, you're gonna go into a dungeon or whatever, then the rogue probably feels pretty good. The fighter probably feels pretty good. Oh, great, the dungeon's inhabited by a lich. The cleric feels really good or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Kill a couple zombies, pick a couple lots, beat a couple dragons, I don't know, get a bunch of gold. Then now we're just plotting the wilderness. The ranger gets to feel pretty good because the ranger gets to be like, befriend all the animals. The druid feels really good because he gets a chance to shine, right?
Yeah.
He's got to go save a bunch of whales. Some magical whales are in danger, and it's like, oh, cool, we saved them. Or we have to deal with some Fae stuff. And then it's like, well, now we're back in the big city. And now it's like, oh, cool, the bard's here. The bard's having fun, chatting up all the people. The rogue's there picking pockets. Like, the fighter's getting in trouble with the guards because he looks like he's dangerous or something. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much stuff that can happen. But, like, if you're an investigator, you're, like, investigating all of it. You're, like, taking up so much DM time the entire time. Because you're good at everything.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I can see how that might have worked as like some other options, but yeah, I mean, I still want to do my Dampier Investigator. So
yeah, no, I do. I imagine it. I actually think I should maybe look at Curse of Strahd and be like, maybe we should just play solo Curse of Strahd with the Investigator. I think that'd be kind of crazy. Except Strahd's a vampire because obviously.
Just show like, wait a minute, the slick back black hair, the pale skin. The castle, the fog, those fangs. Wait a minute.
Exactly. It's like, hey, Strahd, are you a werewolf? And you'd be like, ha, no. And then you would roll.
He might kill you for that.
Yeah, no, but you would roll and be like, oh, is he lying? Let me roll my perception check against the sense motive.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think that kind of sums up, in a way, the feeling on an Investigator. But yeah, like, it's still, I think in some ways it's still an interesting class, so I guess if you want to play it or run it, you have to be prepared for that sort of situation. Like, you have to be prepared to focus maybe a lot of time and energy on giving that class or that player something to do.
Yeah. I would watch out for that one if you have a player in your party. Also, I highly recommend maybe you could give it to them or let them get them like a detective notebook. Like, actually, I think it'd be pretty cool, and I think it would also make the class feel. It will like elevate that class even more, because then you don't have to remember all the clues, but then the player can put all the clues together, right? Like, physically put them all together, like on his little notebook, right?
Yeah.
It'd be way easy to keep track of all those moving pieces, and I really encourage like the detective sleuthingness of it, instead of it being just a game mechanic.
Yeah.
You right. Like I always think of like a fighters is like a really one-sided thing. Is like everyone thinks like, oh, fighters, they just want to,
fight stuff.
But I think fighters, because they're so capable, they actually need to be piloted by tactical people, right? Like if you don't put yourself in the right position or doing the right thing at the right time, could mean that someone going down, or could mean like a whole myriad of things, right? It's like because you're so important in the combat, because you're so people who play fighters tend to be kind of like tactically minded people, actually. Yeah, and you can feel people are barbarians who just don't feel like they're tactical at all, and they just want to throw themselves into destroying something.
Yep, that's me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because I want to smash stuff.
Yeah, well, I think Macy's pretty cerebral as a barbarian, and I don't think barbarians have to be. That's another thing too. Like, I don't think classes ever have to be what they are, right? Like, it's like.
Should we just talk about classes?
Yeah. I guess we'll just talk about classes and like their portrayal. Like, they're okay. So it's like when you as a player or whatever meet another NPC barbarian in the world, right?
Yeah.
Out in the wild. It's like, what are your assumptions of it? It's like, they must be dumb. But I think that like if he's survived all this time to become a barbarian and get a couple levels, like he obviously knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Or she or whatever.
On some level, yeah.
Exactly, right? Like how much do you feel like a like the levels matter? Because I think levels matter, right? Like if I run into a level 10 NPC barbarian who's higher level than me, I still think that person is probably smarter than me, because we're all adventurers. He's just experienced more stuff than me and therefore has more knowledge of shit, even though I'm like a brainy ass wizard or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You might not understand.
It depends. I guess that would depend on like, do you mean smarter mechanically or smarter as a character in ways that you can't write on a character sheet in numbers? Because you might have a higher intelligence stat, but like this is a person who might have more experience or might just know more things because they've been around the block longer.
Exactly, right? And like truly, very truly, like when you start off playing a character and the character at the end of the campaign, they're two different people. Like they just are. Like you're a different person, the character's a different person, the sheet's a different sheet. Like it's all there's like so much experience has happened from that point, like, and so yeah. that's the kind of the thing too, right? It's like, we were rolling with a level 20 barbarian as like an instructor in that game, and I thought that guy, even though he was a barbarian, that guy was probably really smart and knew what he's like. He was like my barometer on stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It was like if that guy wasn't flinching, then it's like there's nothing to be afraid of, right? Yeah. Why would he be afraid of anything? He's level 20 barbarian. He's killed more things than I can even think about, right?
Exactly.
He's killed crazy stuff that I've never even seen before. You just put it into the dirt, so that guy's afraid, then I'll be afraid. But before that, like, there's no worries.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, because in the book it does say some typical characteristics that come with classes.
Oh yeah.
Or at the very least, like what other people would think about you as that person or as that class.
Right.
But yeah, you don't necessarily have to adhere to those. Because, like with barbarians, people think about that yelling, raging, like screaming at the top of your lungs kind of barbarian. But you could also be like that kind of, like, that cold and quiet fury. When someone's like super mad, but they're not like yelling, it's just like a death glare.
Yeah.
Like that could also be the kind of character you want to play. Like, I don't think you should be limited in a way by your class. Like like any class could be any kind of person, basically.
It's almost like you're just falling into character tropes. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like I don't know. Like don't fall into those stereotypes. I guess. Like again, I like to bring up. I don't know. It's like who's like I keep bringing up Macy. Like I think Macy is like pretty cerebral as a barbarian. I also think that Ray from the Pirate Campaign, like he's a barbarian as well. And Ray is probably one of the most tactical PCs that has ever ran in our games. Honestly, I mean that guy really thinks about how does he put people into the ground very effectively.
Yeah.
Or like he's always interested in trying out new things and figuring out what's the best play in the scenario, right? And that's just like Payne as like a player, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
he's very good at tactics.
Yeah, he's very into tactics, and it's like, again, it's like I think that people who are into tactics are really into those martial classes, and then, you know, that the idea that they're not smart is like, that's totally not right. I mean, like Ray is also like, you know, he's I guess eccentric, I think, but he's not like
Sure.
he's dumb.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Yeah, he like even like character wise, because he was previously like a soldier and he was part of a war, so yeah, he does have that tactical mind.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
yeah, I think it's the same kind of thing that when people complain about alignment as a system, and personally, like I always see it as like you shouldn't. I mean, I get its usefulness as something to fall back on if you're having like, if you're trying to decide what your character should do at any moment. If you can't figure out what to do, then you can maybe look at your alignment and think, well, if I'm like this, then I might do that. But at the end of the day, like I think your alignment should adapt to your character rather than your character to your alignment. Like it's a useful tool in some specific moments. But like the way people talk about it, it's always like they communicate it about it. They talk about it in a way that's like, they don't like how limiting it is and things like that. But like, other than some specific classes, like mechanically, it's not an issue. It's just a description of how your character is interacting with the world, whether they're like altruistic or selfish, or they follow certain rules, or they do whatever they want in the moment. Like,
right. And I think like inherently, man, like adventures, if you're playing an adventure and you're trying to, usually there's like a plot to shake up the system, and either you're either on the side of putting the system back together or taking it apart, right? Like it's like, and that's like that law versus chaos kind of deal, or like you're a good person trying to beat the evil guy, right? Typically, I think that players run towards chaotic good, and I think often people lean towards either chaotic good or good neutral or neutral chaotic. That's usually the spectrum that players live in. Like typically, like no one ever wants to be that person running an evil character unless you're that diva guy who runs an evil character and never lets anybody forget that he's evil and murders puppies because, you know, that's edgy. Yeah, but
yeah, like I don't know, like I feel like, I mean, I guess it depends on how you want to play the game, but like it might be better to have your character in mind before you decide on a class, and then figure out what class best fits that, if you're coming at it as a player. But either way, like as you're playing the game, like your character, you might have certain personality traits you want to put in, depending on how heavily you want to RP. Because I know some people might not be so into that, but like your character might have certain traits that go against what would typically be the stereotype of that class. Or typically be the stereotype of your alignment or anything else that you have written down on your sheet or typed into your sheet or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily, like those things don't have to limit you. You can just be whatever your character wants to be. Even if you end up doing something that your character is like bad at. Like if you are a character that has low charisma, but you end up doing a lot of the talking just because that's what your character would do. You might not necessarily be good at it per se, but like you can, like, you don't have to like not do something because your character isn't good at it.
Exactly right. I think a good like a good example we talked about here is like Delorphic, like Tim's character. Delorphic is, I think, stats are crap at diplomacy and stuff. Yet I'm pretty sure he talks the most out of everyone. I mean, until Bruce showed up and he literally talks the most out of everyone. But like in actual like role playing, like we're actually talking out a scene or something like that, right? Like I'm pretty sure like Tim is like a player really likes to get in there with his words, right?
Yeah.
And
it's,
and
I mean,
like
Baruth is just chatty. Like I don't know if he does useful talking.
Well, I mean, I love it every time Delorphic says anything. It's just like, or does anything. It's just like, what is this person gonna do next? That's like all I want to know. Like, yeah, like even though I think the idea that Baruth is a chatty person, I as a player don't actually chat that much. Like actually in the game, right? Yeah. It's like I, you know, I think that like I just can't think of shit in the time. Like I
Yeah,
don't know,
but you can
I just
establish
can't.
like that's what your character is
yeah.
doing, and then we all understand like this is what's happening without you specifically having to say
Exactly.
like what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and alignment too. I think it's like, you know, if you're gonna play like an evil character. I mean, to be fair, I've actually successfully played lots of evil characters. I think the best part about playing an evil character is the fact that no one knows you're evil. like,
Yeah.
like actually, like it's crazy. I think people just think I'm like sometimes you just do the right thing because it's the right move, right? Like it's always I think that evil characters do the whatever choices they make, it's because it's the right move.
Yeah,
If you're
like the
playing a good
practical
character, you make the choices you make are because those are the good choices, right?
Yeah.
I think evil characters, there's no evil choice. There's just the right choice, right? The
Yeah, like
correct
what
answer.
benefits me most in this moment, and sometimes that might be doing what the good guys are doing.
Yeah, it was in like a couple of years ago, we ran a campaign where we invaded like some ogres, and they were mining this magical mine, and all of the miners were like slaves that were kidnapped people, and they basically had to mine this radioactive magical stuff that turned them into weird misshapen people, right? And this huge fight ensued between the party and the ogres, and at the time we were like playing 2 spellcasters and a fighter, and me and the other spellcaster basically like spammed, like it was like a big corridor like mine shaft, sorry, not mine shaft, I don't know, tunnel or whatever, and there's like the miners were there, and in the middle of it, and then the other side of the miners were the ogres, and both of us who were not playing good characters just said, forget it, and just blasted that entire area with area effect attacks. Like they were, like it was like a combination of like sleet, snow, or something like that. So it was snowing, and everybody was blinded, everybody was confused, and also there were black tentacles everywhere strangling everyone. So it was like this horrible situation for these miners, and I'm like, it's fine, they're mutated anyway, no one's gonna care about them. Like actually,
Was I in that game?
right? Yeah, you were. You came
That sounds
literally
super
after
familiar.
that.
Yeah, I remember because I was playing a character who was at some point trapped in those mines. Yeah, I remember because I remember my character asking like what happened to all those other people, and you guys were like, the orcs killed them, and I was like, those damn orcs.
Yeah, right. We literally just lied to your face because it was like, it was just easier to just lie to you. But here's the thing too, right? I think further along in that session or that game, I met up with there was an NPC, like an enemy, who was working with the bad guys, right? And, you know, we're fighting it out for a little bit, and I was like, I just stopped in the middle of combat, and I was like, you're just hired, right? Like, you don't actually care about this? And then she was like, yeah, man, I don't actually care about this. I was like, truce? And then they were like, truce. And then we just got to talking, and I'm pretty sure I married that lady later in the campaign.
Wow.
Right, it was such like a crazy thing. And then it was like at the end of the campaign, there was like a contract demon. The contract demon is like, there was like this impossible wall for us to get to like the actual bad guy, right? And the contract demon is like, what are you going to offer? Are you going to offer your soul so you can defeat the bad guy? And I was like, I'm not going to offer my soul. I'm way too goddamn important. I'm going to offer the soul of my firstborn because, you know, that makes way more sense to me. And everybody else looked at me shocked, right?
Wow. I mean, that is incredibly practical, but incredibly selfish.
Incredibly practical. Exactly. I can have 2 kids. I already got a wife.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, it was like the firstborn child or the entire world. What am I gonna choose?
I mean, if you look at it that way.
That kid's not gonna be born if we lose anyway, right? The stakes are so high. It doesn't make any sense. But if I was a good character, I would never make that choice because that's not what good people do. Right? But luckily, you know, I didn't have to do that. We figured out in the end that the contract demon was actually the bad guy, and that was actually a really cool ending to the campaign because I started like that game. I was playing like a witch, like in Pathfinder 1, and there was like a capstone spell, and we got like a potion to let us all be level 20 at the end fight. And there was a capstone spell that I don't know. I always thought, oh man, that was the first thing I read. And I was like, man, I really like witches now because I like the spell. I hope I'm ever going to get to use it, right? Because we never got to play to level 20 because who does that? Right.
Right.
But our DM made it so like we're able to kind of boost ourselves from whatever level we were. I think we're at level 13 straight to level 20 for like one fight, right? So I was able to cast the one spell, and so because the contract demon turned into a pit fiend because of all the magical energy, right? And then we got him down to the point where he was at 0 unconscious, but because he had fast healing and he was immune to fire, he dived into this lava pit, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, the lava won't hurt him and he's able to just regen and we can't get to him.
Yeah.
Except I was able to cast a spell. I think it was like another icy thing where it was just like no matter what, the entire area, no matter how hot it was before, just becomes a one solid block of ice. And you can't heat it with magical, like with non-magical means. The only way to get out of it is with a witch spell. And if you can't, you're immediately dead. And I was like, yeah, I do that. And then he's like, God damn it, you did it. He's dead. Because the ice will just form a giant rock, and then now he's encased in the rock, and he can't get out because he's at 0 hit points forever.
Ooh, that's a great setup for a sequel, though.
I know, right? It'd be pretty cool because it's like, well, you know, I like the idea of like a frozen demon out there who's trapped in magical ice, waiting to break out because of like some enchantment. But yeah, either way, it was like. There's a successful running of an evil character. There was very few times where I was able to just not tell the truth or not do the good guy thing or care about civilians every so often for me to still maintain that I was doing evil things. But also, I was also just looking out for my own. Like, you know, the reason why I wanted to help the kingdom is because I was hired by them and I live there now.
Yeah, you
live
live
my
there.
wife lives there. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why, because you're evil, you don't get to have a family or care about your
like
friends.
A specific group of people, yeah. I don't know if I could play an evil character. I always default to, like, even with Helen, who was supposed to be, like, this pirate skirting the edges of the law, there's still, like, a lot of good in her for what she's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true. But Helen often, like, just kills people because it's, like, easier to deal with them than letting them go, which I think it's perfectly fine.
But like, pure pirate Helen would have kicked these people off of her boat long ago.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
I think she's loyal, mostly, is what it is.
Yeah, and her crew, even though they're all pirates, they're actually just really nice dudes.
Yeah, they're really nice. They're a bunch of goofballs, but...
Yeah, and you know, well, I don't think, like, so, Rook is, I'm trying to think of all the evil characters. Like, Rook is an evil character, and he's not like ambiguously, like, he's definitely evil. Like, he 100% will, like, put bodies in the ground if that's the easiest way to do something, right? And he's also willing, because he's also willing to talk to bad guys, which we found out that Macy's not going to be able to do because Macy's a good person. Like, Macy will not parlay with the bad guys no matter what.
I mean, right? Not with a demon, certainly, or devil, or whichever. She sees the horns, she's out of there.
No, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, especially with something that she knows is, like, literally an evil figure from hell. She's not about to get involved with that.
Yeah, but Rook is like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, because that's the most, like, practical thing, not the good guy thing.
Exactly, but he's very confident in the fact that if anything happens, he'll just be able to put her in the ground, right?
Yeah.
He's Rook. He's Rook, basically the Grim Reaper in elf form.
Yeah, with his experience, he's like, yeah, I can kill anything I need to.
Yeah, like, what's he afraid of, right? And it's like... So, you know, I like that aspect of being evil. But, you know, sometimes I think people get the idea that evil is, you know... killing puppies or being an edgelord.
A lot of people who complain about, like, other players playing evil characters, it's always like an impractical evil. It's always doing something that will hurt the party for no reason other than, well, I'm evil, so I gotta do it. I gotta steal from my party because I gotta do it. Not even like in terms of needing something. It's just that's what I gotta do.
Yeah, or people playing chaotic characters, like those chaotic characters who are basically just wang rods,
Yeah.
right? Or, they don't want to, they're like, oh, I like to play, or like, I don't know, I really, I'm going to use the word despise again.
Well, you said disdain before, so this is different.
Oh, disdain. Yeah, I know. This one's despise. Despise neutral characters. People are like, I'm neutral, and it's like, no, you're not. You don't weigh good and bad the exact same way. You know what I mean? You don't ever actually weigh the consequences of your actions versus the benefits of your actions. You're never actually doing. You're just doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right. And then going back to the club. Well, I'm just neutral. Right. It's just like how you feel. And I mean, like, I think that's fine. Not every good person is good every single time. Not every paladin, I think, does everything as good as possible. Like they sometimes they mess up, and then that's fine. Like, But I just think that, like, I hate people who are like, yeah, I'm playing true neutral, because, like, you're not.
No, it is.
No,
yeah, I was just thinking about, like, those chaotic characters that you're talking about, because one of my characters, God, what was her name? Drusilla. Mm-hmm. She kind of was that a bit. Like, something I also see, because I spend too much time on Twitter looking at RPG discussions, is I always see the phrase, it's what my character would do, used as, like, a negative thing. Like, as something a bad player would say. Bad in quotation marks. And that was, like, one of the first shocks for me when I was, like, looking into, the larger RPG community. Because I was like, I used to say that. Was I a bad player? But like, my thing with Drusilla was she was far too, like, overconfident for what she was capable of. Right. So she would always, like, charge headfirst into battle, nearly get herself killed, and then have to be rescued. I remember at one point she was, like, gonna run into a fight, and someone else had to, like, physically restrain her from it. Like, to me, that was always, like, I know this is a bad decision, but it's only gonna hurt me, so I'm gonna do what my character wants to do. I don't think I would have done, or I don't think I actually really did anything that, like, would have hurt the entire party. Unless you count, like, a character being down as hurting the entire party.
Yeah. I totally understand it. Yeah, it's kind of the Wanger out defense, as Matt Koval likes to say.
Yeah.
Right. And, I think that's also, like, so I also was a culprit of this, because, like, I think on the game we played on Sunday, things like at the end of it, we're doing kind of like a post wrap up of the game. We're kind of talking about it. Mm-hmm. I think we're just there's like a heated conversation, and I was like, I think we're both telling how, like, my character's gonna do whatever he wants to do, right? And it's like, well, just don't get in my way, because my character's gonna. He's like, well, I'm like, what if I try and stop you? I was like, well, my character's gonna try and kill you, because that's what my character's good at, right? And I was like, I don't know why, but, like, I hate it. I personally, as a DM, hate it when players threaten other players with in-character violence. Yeah. But then I did it, right? Like, I caught myself doing it. And, like, I hated it. I was like, I can't believe I did that, right? But I was just kind of, like, frustrated a little bit at the time, because we're having, like, a heated conversation.
That was fresh off the Investigator class.
Yeah, it was. And again, I think that class is ridiculous. It blows me the wrong way.
Yeah, as I think would be obvious by the first, like, 35 minutes of this episode.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't come off as, like, a crazy person.
No.
I'm not
complaining about this one specific class.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And I'm not saying that Paizo messed up or whatever, because they made a really fun game, and all of the stuff's really complicated, and it's like, I just think it's just not for me, and I'm gonna decide when it's appropriate to use it. I'm just not gonna have it there. Like, it's like how I don't have gnomes in my world, because I decided that gnomes are kind of silly, and I'm like, I don't really want them.
What? No, gnomes are cool. Right. Brima's a gnome. I realized recently, I think I've been calling Brima a halfling when she's actually a gnome, so.
Oh, really? I thought she was a halfling.
Nope. I looked at her sheet and I was like, oh yeah, she's a gnome. Oh yeah. Exactly.
See? I don't know. What is the difference, really?
About 3 or 6 inches.
Exactly. Like, I mean, not to say that gnomes never exist in my world, but they're just like very, very few. And if you want to play a gnome, the answer is probably going to be no, unless you have a very good reason to. Because there's so much more options, and you could just be anything else. Like whatever you're doing, you're thinking about doing a gnome, you could probably do it just as well as playing anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's just some things like it's not like it's bad in a way. It's just like doesn't really fit with what you're doing, or it's just like the class is just not for you, or it doesn't like you don't like it. That's just how I mean, this is a big game, and most RPG games are pretty big games with a whole lot of stuff you can do in them. So yeah, there's gonna be some stuff that you just doesn't gel with you.
Yeah, and okay, so going back to what you said earlier about the I'm just playing my character thing, right? So it's like I think there's just some moments where it was like you make a decision that's like not intuitive because that's actually what the character would do, like role playing with, like not even like a joke or like you want to be disruptive or something like that. It's like, sorry guys, I gotta go do this thing. This is what my character would do, right? Kind of situations. But if you're constantly just being an asshole about it and just constantly going against the party and constantly being like, you know, antagonistic to stuff, or being like, I'm going to stab the shopkeeper. And it's just like, but why? Yeah. That's what my character would do. And it's just like, okay. Right.
I think that's where some of my diva fears came from, because I kept using that phrase and then I saw how people were reacting to it. But then, like, over time when I was thinking about it, I was like, everything I've done with Drusilla and even with Macy, I did that a lot. Most of the time, it only had a negative impact on me. So I think it's okay. Like, to do something that would have a negative impact on the entire party, I think that's where the line is. But to do something where it's like, you as a player know it's a bad idea, but you are the one who's most likely going to be like, who's going to suffer the consequences of it, then sure, do that. I remember Drusilla getting on the wrong side of a great axe one time, just because she went into a fight she shouldn't have. Like that's just like, I'm the one who got that D12 damage.
So it's fine.
So it's
like you didn't drag the party into hotter water just because of your actions.
Yeah,
right?
We were already in hot water. I just went into like the middle of the pot.
That's fine. I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna. I mean, that's just like maybe your character's not that tactically aware, which like, you know, we talked about being tactically aware.
Yeah, no,
that's totally fine.
That was like very early days of me playing, so also I wasn't very tactically aware. So it helped.
So we're coming up like an hour now, I think.
Yep. Hour, and well, I mean, whatever else I cut out, like flim flam and stuff, but you know, I do cut out the parts where we say, hey, I'm recording now.
Because, you know, we're professional YouTubers around here.
Exactly.
Professional podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, I press the button and then we just start from there. That's what everyone should know. The moment I press the button, our audio is already synced, and I just roll into the intro.
Exactly. There was just like one thing as well. It's like, you know, it's like you want to resolve a conflict in the game either with violence or with trying to figure it out, diplomacy or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, how often do you feel like as a DM you put situations where it could be solved through like role play or other mechanics than the math of death, right? Like
how many times do I do it on purpose?
Yeah, is it always on purpose? Because
it doesn't necessarily have to be.
I think there's some players out there who just believe that they can just solve all problems with not the death math.
Yeah, with like negotiation. Yeah, because like, I mean, for me, because I've been doing that, like that one road trip campaign, so we've had a lot of encounters with like wild creatures, but like fighting most intelligent things like actual people. Sure, if someone tried that, I'd roll with it and see where it went. I don't know if I've purposely done that. Trying to think of an example off the top of my head. One isn't like immediately coming to me.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like I think I'm of the mindset of sometimes it's like no, the violent, like it's like the action punctuates the storytelling, and then you get back to the action. Like it's like a movie, right? Like if a movie was all action the entire time, it would just kind of lose all meaning. But then if it was a movie it was all, you know, dialogue all time, then, you know, the dialogue wouldn't feel that important, right? You just kind of need that,
you need the balance
up and down. Exactly. And if you try and solve everything one way or the other, then it's not really fun. But I find like I don't mix, like everybody always has the option to negotiate someone who's willing to negotiate, right?
Yeah.
I think the bad guys should negotiate with the players way more often. Like if they're on the losing side and they happen to get a PC or something, and it's like, hey man, just let us leave and we'll give your friend back or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if they're smart enough to negotiate, then yeah, negotiation should go down. Or maybe maybe the bad guys have a bigger issue and it's like, hey man, you look pretty strong. You want to help us out? Instead of killing us, you go kill this thing that's bothering us.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden some bad guys turn into some allies. You know what I mean? But I think that sometimes it's like it's like your life is on the line, and like that makes or breaks the whole adventure. It's like it makes what you're doing important, because at any minute you could actually just die.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think, like, I mean, other than like I did have a moment with someone surrendering, like in our game, like when you grabbed the bandit leader and her escape plan didn't work, and she was like, well, I'm not gonna die just to rob some random people.
Exactly, right?
So yeah, definitely. It also was kind of that I already got to like that character a bit too much just to let her die like that. So,
but here's the thing, Calvin. Imagine if What Else was playing an investigator, and they walked into that situation, and you're like, is something odd in this situation? You'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
The person underneath the tree seems to be like there's no weight on them or something, or you know,
they're clearly faking it. You see some dudes in the trees.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, I guess there's no fun anymore. Like it takes the fun out of stuff. Right? Then we're never ever gonna get into that trap, and we're never gonna be like feel betrayed anymore, because we're so brain smart that we chose the class that has the ability that we can just bypass the plot.
You chose the speedrun class.
Exactly, right? You're basically the speedrun class, and I think that's no fun, man. Yeah. We're trying to. It's all about the journey, not the destination. Like, I think that most people remember what's happening during the campaign, and if the campaign ends well, then it ends well. But like, sometimes campaigns never end. And all you have is just a little bits that you have. So why would you want to speed run through it?
Yeah. Gosh, I'm still trying to think of an answer for your question.
It's hard.
The only thing I can think of is like, I did a superhero one shot where the players had to deal with some. It was with Deanna and Camille, who are on our Starfinder podcast. And I was just doing a quick game with them, and basically they just had to go investigate like this missile silo, and they found a mind-controlled ally in there. So they were on their turns also like trying to do like persuasion checks to try and like help them escape the mind control,
right?
As well as trying to fight them. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know that I've ever purposely set out to set up that kind of thing. But yeah, if players want to do that, they can do that. Or if they want to investigate, they can do that.
Investigate. In the middle of a fight. I think that goblin's cheating on that goblin with that goblin. I cracked the case. Man, I'm going to keep shitting on that class. I'm so sorry, anybody who loves Investigator out there. I'm just not a fan.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe someone's had different experience with it, so they've enjoyed it more.
Oh, definitely. And I definitely don't think Peza would put it into a game if they didn't get positive results from it. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's just not for me. That's cool. That's fine.
Oh, hey, Vigilante is an archetype in Pathfinder 2.
Oh, there you go. See? Now you could be Cape and Kyle Druid. I'm the Leaf.
Well, I guess I have my next player character lined up. All right, well, I think unless you have any more disparaging things to say about the Investigator class, I think that might be the episode.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's outro time. Thanks for sticking along this our podcast where I get to, talk bad about Peso's hard work.
Hopefully this isn't. I'm just like, my worst fear is that someone at, is it Peso or Paizo? Oh gosh, I'm making it worse. I'm just imagining someone at the Pathfinder company hearing like this is the first episode they hear.
They're like, oh no, and they're like, no, that's my class I worked on.
As if it would be just like one specific person.
I know. It's
and then they hear there's like, those sons of. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. If it does, though, we like Starfinder. We did.
Hey, no, I think there's tons of class. Like the rest of the classes are awesome.
Oh gosh, I hope they haven't turned off the episode.
Yeah, no.
They already stopped listening like 10 minutes in.
Yeah,
no. But if you haven't stopped listening and you're still sticking around, be sure to drop a like on the video if you liked it. Drop a comment about what you might want to hear next, and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you ring the bell so you get a notification every time we upload a new episode or video onto the channel. As always, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Win With Dice, or check out our website, winwithdice.ca. It's a pretty fresh website. And yeah, that's about it. Just, if you want to hear more from us, just check out our previous episodes or check out some of the actual plays that we have.
Yeah.
Ramon, anything else you want to say before we head out?
The case is closed.
And with the investigation coming to an end, just remember to keep on winning with a dice.
Okay, see you guys.
Bye.